Fantastic. Right. Good to go.
It's fine. I'll readjust it as time goes on. But actually, what's the time now? I would go to like a video
Now
short.
it's 7:59.
So
It's called the mobile phone.
Chaim is on.
My Fitbit. I think how many steps I've done today as well.
How many steps have you done?
8,920.
That's very good.
I went for a walk with the kids
Where?
I've only done that.
just around town.
This is me just going in the car.
Where's around town?
Go on the treadmill later.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, hopefully. Okay, shkoyach once again for all those who helped arrange and set it up. Just say very briefly, the Gemara in Brachas tells us that there was a person called Oved Edom Agiti, and he looked after the Aron for 3 months. And the Gemara there tells us that looking after the Aron entailed very little effort. All he had to do was sweep the floor in front of the Aron. And Hashem gave him a tremendous reward. Does anybody remember the reward that he got? His wife and 8 daughters-in-law all had 6 triplets. So he had 54 grandchildren and children in 3 months. Can you imagine? All for the reward of having the Aron in his house for a few months. Kavachema, if the Gemara there says, Kavachema having a shiur in your property and setting it up, getting the speakers and everything with it. No, thank you. So Mr. Hashem, also the people that come to the shiur, they all help set up the shiur. So we're going to be very busy going to Shem Zachas and Kiddushim. And then you see from the Gemara what tremendous reward it is. You have to realize that Shloch rewards, we don't appreciate how much reward HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives. We think, what did he do already? He swept in front of the Aron. If you can't hear me, Ben, you should... but can you hear me? Okay. It's the loudest? Okay. If you can't hear me, tell me straight away. We're up to actually Peites Amud Aleph, 4 lines down from the wide lines, and we're carrying on discussing Matan Torah, or the events that surround Matan Torah. And the word says like this: One Rabbi Shua Belevi, B'shor Shalom Moshe Lamorim. When Moshe went up into Shamayim, he was tying crowns to the letters. That is the famous crowns. There are many of the letters. They have different little tiny lines coming out of them, which look a little bit like a crown. And he saw HaKadosh Baruch Hu drawing these crowns on the letters of the Torah. Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe, in Sholem Beirecha, do people not greet each other in your town? Moshe Rabbeinu, out of fear for Hashem, never greeted him. And Hashem told him off, you're supposed to greet. Moshe Rabbeinu replied, is there such thing as a servant giving hello to his master? You don't do such a thing. You should at least say something, say, help me, say something nice to help me. Immediately, what happened was, immediately he said something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's power should become strong like he spoke. And what happened was, he said a greeting to Hashem. And from here we see how important it is for a greeting, that even a Talmud is supposed to greet his Rebbe. So for Moshe Rabbeinu, the next time he went up into Shemayim, he did greet his Rebbe HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Omar B'Shua ben Levi. Now we're quoting other ideas from B'Shua ben Levi on that same period in history. The word boishesh actually means delay. It can be read bo shesh. Atiki boishesh or bo shesh. 6 hours have already arrived. When Moshe went up into Shemayim, he said to Klal Yisrael, I'm going to come down the mountain after 40 days within the first 6 hours of the day. After 40 days, they made a mistake. The calculation of Klal Yisrael was wrong because they included the day that Moshe went up on the mountain. And they were only supposed to count from the next day. The reason that day wasn't counted because it wasn't a full day. It didn't have a night before. As Saul Meforshim explained, according to Rabbi Yossi, that Moshe Rabbeinu added a day on his own, then it's even more powerful the reason they made the mistake. Because indeed the 40 days had finished, but only Moshe Rabbeinu had added an extra day. Either way, the day of the 40th day, which they thought was finished, and he hadn't yet finished, he made a tremendous amount of confusion in the world. Where's your Moshe? 6 hours. They ignored the Yetzirah. Mace, he told them Moshe when he died. They ignored him. He showed them a bed with Moshe Rabbeinu lying on it. This Moshe Ish V'Gomer. Zeh is always when you're pointing to something. If I say this, it means this particular thing. This Moshe, we don't know what's happened to him. Where's the this Moshe? The answer is they were pointing to the bed which Moshe Rabbeinu was lying on. The Satan showed him such a vision. I said, this Moshe, which we can see, we don't know what happened to him. And that's what happened, that they ended up doing such a terrible aveira of doing the Egel. And there's a very, very famous Ochai Shmulevitz. He says it in a number of places. He says the same idea. He actually even says it to Gabi Rus. And that is that Klal Yisrael over here did the worst aveira possible, the Egel. How could they have done such a thing? The answer is it came from confusion, from a complete confusion of what their life was about. It was a sudden shock. Till now they had a leader. Now the leader's disappeared. He used to say that the Yetzirah can grab a person in the most powerful way if all he needs to do is create a situation where the person feels lost. And that a person has to be aware that in a situation when such a thing happens, not to lose himself. Let's say a person goes through a tragedy, loses his job. Things can happen where something confusing happens here, terrible, or sometimes it could be a happy thing. Sometimes people, when they get newly married, they can get like it's a whole new experience of life. And Chashav is just to say that's very important when there's a confusion in a person's mind. The Yetzirah has the most power to cause harm. And Klal Yisrael got in a very confused state. And that's where he managed to put his hand in and get them to do the Egel. The Talmud Chacham said to Rav Kahana, my Har Sinai. Have you ever heard an explanation? Why was it called Har Sinai? He said to him, Nisim the Yisrael. It was a mountain which many Nisim, like we had yesterday, Tchias Amesim and the Tal and all and the smell, the perfumes. So he said, Ha Nisoi mi boile. If that's the case, we should have said Ha Nisoi, not Sinai. The letters are the wrong way around. Nun Samach, not Samach, no. Elahash Nasa Simon Tov the Yisrael. A good sign was done for Klal Yisrael. So the Gemara says, Ha Simonoi mi boile. He should have said Ha Simon, not Ha Sinai. My time Why didn't you go and learn Bav Huna and Papa of Rav Papa and Rav Huna? The Ma'ani Ba'agadat of Chista v'Rabba Redu Avona. The Omid Shabayu, because they both say, my Har Sinai. What is Har Sinai? Har Shiyodo Sinol Umis Olam Olav. The mountain which hatred to the nations came down on it. Rashi says, the mountain which HaKadosh Baruch Hu developed a hatred to the nations. Why? Because they rejected accepting the Torah. Since they rejected accepting the Torah, so from then on, HaKadosh Baruch Hu felt a hatred towards them. You were the ones who never accepted the Torah. So how Sinai comes the word sinner, hatred. But the Netziv and many other, Medrash already says this, it means a completely different pshat. It's the mountain where the hatred of the Goyim to Klal Yisrael came about. Because when the Goyim saw that Klal Yisrael got something which they never had, they got jealous, and from then on they're always haters. The Gaon says the greatest of all hatred comes from the hatred of jealousy. All hatreds come for a variety of reasons, but the hatred of jealousy is the most potent, is the most powerful. And since the Goyim are jealous of the fact that we've got the Torah and they realize what they've lost out, that is the most powerful hatred. The mountain of Har Sinai has got 5 different names. Madbar Sin. Why is it about sin? Sin comes from the word tzivui. We were commanded the mitzvahs. Midbar Kodesh, Sheniskadru Yisol Olav. Klal Yisrael became Kodesh. Midbar Kedemos, Shenitno Keduma Olav. There was given that which came first. Torah came before the world. If you said the Piyot on Shavuos, one of the Torah there in the Chazor Sashat, unfortunately I never got to say this, but some shuls do say it. There's a very, very beautiful piyut in the Chazor Sashat on both first day and second day of Shachris, where the Torah describes how powerful and how beautiful it is. And one of the things it says about itself, it's I'm the first thing that ever came about. Before any mountain, before any seas, before anything happened, I came about, says the Torah. So Kedemos means that which came first. And that's what's called Midbar Kedemos. Midbar Pon, why it's called Midbar Pon, top of Pei Testament base. Shpo Vavovu Yisrael, Klal Yisrael became increased on it. As the Torah tells, Medrash tells us, when Klal Yisrael came home after Matan Torah, they came to when they all had a baby within that year. They all had a baby boy within that year. Midbar Sinai Shiodo Sinu L'Moisei Lo Olav. They created hatred, as we said, two pshat before, either hatred to the goyim from Hashem, or hatred from the goyim to Klal Yisrael. Umay Shmoi Chayvav Shmoi Tzvi'ol name is Chayvav. Upliga Dabavod Umavod Had Sinai Shmoi Leonika HaChayvav. Shiodo Chubo L'Moisei Lo Olav. Destruction came to the nations because they chose not to accept the Torah. And because of that, destruction came. So we've got a number of names for Har Sinai, and each one represents another facet of the amazing events that happened there. So the Mishnah says, how do we know that we tie a red thread around when we push the goat off the cliff on Yom Kippur? So since we bring the pasuk, kashoni, the Gemara now darshans those pasukim. The Gemara kashoni me. The pasuk should have said it in the singular because it's one red thread. If you are bearers or like a red thread, they will be turned white. Why does the pasuk use the plural sense? Kashonim, many threads. So the Gemara over here translates the word kashonim not as many red threads. Shonim can be plural of shoni. Shoni being a red thread. So kashonim can be a plural of that. Or kashonim can mean like years. And more dash is like years. If your Averos will be as many and as regular, like the years, just like every year there's a new year. There's been thousands of years from Vias Olam. And it always comes every year. If your Averos are as numerous and as regular as the years, just like every single year, we know it'll be last year, next year, the year before, it's like a constant. Even if your Averos are as constant as the years, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will forgive us. And that's a very powerful expression that however bad a Yid can possibly become, even if it's Averos are like years, then the Pasuk says, Kasheleg Yalbinu, I'll make them white, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will forgive. The pasuk there describes when Mashiach comes, Hashem says, come and I'll argue with you. Says the Gemara, whenever I say to you, let's have a discussion, I should say to you, come, not go. Why does the pasuk say go? Yomi Hashem, Hashem will say, it's future tense. Oma Hashem yiboyalei. Rav asks two questions. Why does the pasuk say it in the future tense? And why does it say it in go, not come? Thank you. Why does it say go, not come? And why in the future tense, not present tense? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, so the Gemara now says, a long story of what will happen when Mashiach comes. When Mashiach, when the Yom Hadin comes, go to your fathers and they should tell you off, and with them you should discuss how you should do tshuva. On Yom Hadin, we should go to Avom Yitzchak and Yaakov and discuss with them what we should do. We reply to Hashem, which one of the others should we go to? Should we go to Avom? That Hashem said to him, Klal Yisrael are going to go into Golus and they're going to suffer. And Avom Avinu did not protest and daven for us. So we're not going to go to Avom Avinu and ask him to tell us off, because after all, he was the one that could have davened for us and never did. Will we go to Yitzchak Avinu that he benched Esav and he said to him, what happened was Yaakov stole the brachas and Esav was very upset. So what did the Yitzchak say to Esav? When you've got reason to be upset, meaning when Yaakov Avinu stops doing the mitzvahs, you'll be able to attack Yaakov, which is why we're in Golus today. Because since we did our Averos, now Esav's got power over us. So Yitzchak, in a way, gave power to Esav to the detriment of Klal Yisrael. So we're not going to go to Yitzchak Avinu for help. I'll come down to Mitzrayim with you. You never davened for us. Yoma Hashem. Sorry, it's Min Elech who should we go to? Yoma Hashem. The only one we can ever hope for is Hashem. And that's how he says, Yoma Hashem. It's not that Hashem spoke, but rather it's a tefillah from Klal Yisrael. Yoma Hashem, let Hashem speak. We ask Hashem, you be the one to punish us and to tell us off. So Since you put your eyes on me, that means there's a very important message over here. Avram Yitzchak and Yaakov cared for Christ more than anybody else. That's why they called the Ovis HaKadosh. But after all, there was some level limited. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu's chesed, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kindness and rachnim is much, much, much greater. And Klal Yisrael lost it. Lovoi will say to Hashem, we're not interested in getting Avram Yitzchak and Yaakov involved. We want your input. Because after all, you are the one who is by far the kindest. We say this a little bit in Tehillim, we say it on the Shema. It's good to think about it. Moshe says this verse. My father and my mother left me and Hashem gathers me in. Your parents left you? You were ever thrown in the streets by your parents? What does it mean? And he says that the Melech meant to say as follows. Sometimes a person could be so bad that eventually his parents say, you know what, we can't deal with you anymore. But you should know that however difficult you ever are, even if you become to the stage where your parents say, that's it, we can't look after you, Hashem will always gather you in. You should look inside if you ever get a chance. It's beautiful words. However much you can do that your parents should leave go of you, Hashem will gather you in. A similar Gemara. What does it supposed to mean when it says, you are our father? Avam doesn't know us. You are Hashem, our Redeemer forever. And the Gemara now tells us a short story of what will happen when Mashiach comes. Hashem will say to Avam, your sons, Klal Yisrael, have done Averos. If they did that Averos, they should be destroyed. And Rashi explains, Avam Avinu is not being vindictive here. On the contrary, he feels that by Klal Yisrael's suffering, that will create a Kiddush Hashem, because the world will see how bad it is to rebel against Hashem. So actually, Avam Avinu will say, if Klal Yisrael did that Averos, let them be destroyed. At least that way there'll be a Kiddush Hashem. Omar, Hashem said, if that's the case, I shouldn't go to Avraham Avinu. It's not the right address, because I don't want Klal Yisrael to suffer. I'll go to tell Yaakov, because Yaakov suffered. And since Yaakov Avinu suffered, because he looked after 12 children, so therefore he'll daven for them. Maybe he'll daven. He said to Yaakov Avinu, your sons have done Averos. Again, Yaakov Avinu will say, if they did Averos, let them die. Because that way the world will see how bad it is to do Averos. Don't go to the old people, they got no good ideas. Don't go to the young, they don't have good advice. Meaning Avraham Avinu is no good, he didn't daven. Yaakov is no good, he didn't daven. He went to Yitzchak Avinu and he said, your sons have sinned. Are they my sons, not your sons? When they said Nasa before Nishma, what did you say? They are my special son, my important son. Why do you call them my sons of the Naveres? It's your sons of the Naveres. I remember I heard this Gemara for the first time from Chaim Kaufman, Zechat Tzadik Levocha. I mean, there's no posh-up shot to this Gemara over here, but just the power of the words. I never forgot it from hearing it from him. Some unbelievable words. How many Averos have Klal Yisrael managed to do already? How long does a person normally live? 20 years. The first 20 years, based on Shemala, don't punish. So you can't count the first 20 years. A person before the age of 20 is considered a child. So you've only got Poshuru Chamshin. From the age of 20 till 70, there's only 50 years left. You've got to knock off 25 years, because 25 years people are sleeping. Can you imagine? Half their lives, they're in bed anyway. What complaints can you have? They're busy sleeping. So it's only 25. Only 25 years did Averos. Minus half of 25 was 12 and a half. People are davening, eating, going to the bathroom. People are busy. They don't have time to do Averos all the time. So there's only 12 and a half years left that Klal Yisrael managed to do Averos. If you're ready to forgive them all, that's brilliant. If not, half I'll take responsibility, says Yitzchak, half Hashem will take responsibility. And if you say, no, Hashem, you don't take any, I gave my life for you, so therefore you have to forgive them. I mean, Yitzchak Avinu Mamish says it like a Beditchever kind of story. He comes up with some really interesting Don Lechaf story. Person from the age of 20 to 70, it's only 50 years, half sleeping, half this. People are busy. How many Averos can this showing do? And therefore he says, take away. It's a Murdik and the Kudah over here. The Maral already points out that Yitzchak is the Midas Adin. And yet he's the one who comes up with the most rachamim. And he says that we have to understand that din is not unlimited. When there's a place for din, there's a place for din. When there's no place for din, so Yitzchak found rachamim. So therefore over here, Yitzchak Avinu manages to find rachamim. Nice, very nice Gemara, very interesting Gemara, how Yitzchak Avinu manages to find, it's fine, it falls every so often, but it doesn't matter. So you see in the Murdik and the Kudah, he finds ways to forgive. Can you hear me? No, the before she explained night is for sleeping. In fact, the Mashal asks, since you pointed out, that nights are the time when people do the most Averos. He says it's very difficult because at the end of the day, it's no some things like that are usually done at night. Mashal says he means nights over here. He means like when a person's like preoccupied and busy and therefore like that. Okay, it's yes, and eating, and also they obviously davened because it's ancient. There isn't any simple. He's trying to say they were busy. They weren't busy doing Averos all the time. They're distracted. You say? Yeah, but even that, it's not the whole night. Yes, it's quite a lot of night. Yeah. Okay, so therefore they were very happy. Poschu v'amu, so Klal Yisrael said, Ki ato avinu, oh Yitzchak, you are the one. You daven for us. Very good. Omalem Yitzchak achatem kalsim li. Instead of praising me, kalsu lakdish baruch hu. Don't praise me, praise Hashem. Umachvile Yitzchak k'dish baruch hu beinayu. Yitzchak says to them, look up to Hashem. Yitzchak says, don't praise me, praise Hashem. And therefore, that's what the pasuk means. You, Hashem, are the real Father. Our real Father, the real protector we have is Hashem, not Avram, not Yitzchak, not Yaakov. One more Gemara about this whole topic. We mentioned Yaakov. He should have gone down to Mitzrayim with iron chains. I took them down with ropes of a person, meaning because of the love that I had for Yaakov, I pulled them with ropes and not with chains. With bombs of love. Sometimes you want to put a yoke on somebody. What do? You put it on gently. So too, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when you put the yoke on Mitzrayim, he didn't throw it on Yaakov. It was done in a very gentle manner. Yosef was the king. He did a lot of things to help Klal Yisrael settle in. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu helped them. The 8 olav oichil, and I turned it on him, oichil, and I gave Yaakov the power to withstand. That means HaKadosh Baruch Hu made sure in Mitzrayim that even though Klal Yisrael deserved to be punished, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made sure that it should be done in a gentle way, in a way that it should be pleasant, in a way that they should survive it without suffering too much. We're finished with that. Gathered now, we're going back to the topic of this parak. The topic, or actually the last parak as well. And that is, that to be chayav on Shabbos for carrying, you have to carry something of value. And the question is, what is of value? And then now the Mishnah carries on telling us a tremendous list of different items and how much you have to have of each item. If you remember, does anybody remember food? How much food do you have to carry to be chayav Shabbos? Let's say take an apple. How big does it have to be? Good guess. A dried fig, right? So it's important to be aware. If you need to take a pill for a child, for let's say, so it's less than a good guess. So it could be that's another. It makes it more kuladik, right? It could be not because a pill is something important. Even if it's less, okay, it can be done about it. It says the Mishnah. If you take out wood, enough to bake, to cook a light egg, which is an egg, a chicken egg. Tavin spices, let's say you have different spices. You have paprika, you have pepper, you have garlic. So then what happens is, you took a tiny bit of paprika, a tiny bit of pepper. If together they can all spice one egg, then that is enough to be chayav for. Now, just for the record, obviously, the Gemara is going to say this because they make it easier to understand the Gemara. I don't know, I don't spice my eggs that much, I just add salt. But if you were to spice your eggs, it has to be spices that combine together to enhance the egg. If, for argument's sake, you take a tiny bit of pepper and a tiny bit of garlic, and adding pepper and garlic makes the egg worse because each one detracts from another, you're not chayav. But if you take enough pepper that it's not enough to make your egg taste nice, but it's a little bit, and a bit of garlic, that's also not enough. But together they can enhance the egg, then you're chayav. Or if you take enough pepper or enough garlic. The chiddush over here is you didn't take enough of one, then you're chayav if you take enough of the other. Together. We'll explain it more in a minute. I just add one more small point. Let's say you take a small piece of apple and a small piece of orange, and together they come to a gregaris, that is a fig, the naloch is your chayiv. Why you chayiv? The answer is because the chiyuv is because of food. And together, you've got enough food, the apple and the orange, to be chayiv. When you are taking spices, it has to be enough to spice something. So if you take a garlic and pepper, and let's say each one detracts from the other, and each one by itself is not enough to spice and enhance anything, then you're not chayiv, because together they don't work. And separately, each one's not enough to make your egg taste nice. So therefore, it has to be that they enhance, that they actually work together to make your egg taste better. Klippe egoizim, nut peels, klippe moidim, pomegranate peels, istisupur, these are kinds of plants which were all used for the dyeing process to make paints. Beged cotton in order to make with them a small item of clothing, colorful. A piece of clothing on top of the hat. Meiraglaim, urine, neso, boyos, kamolio, v'ashlag. These are all different kinds of soaps which people used to use. They used to use urine in those days in order for the purpose of cleaning their clothes. And again, we once talked about the fact that they used to recycle in those days on a level which we cannot even imagine. And people would keep the urine for purposes for keeping it. And the same thing we see over here, the peels of your pomegranate. When you ate pomegranates on Rosh Hashanah, what do you do with the pomegranates? Throw it in the bin. But we see, most of us did that, I'm sure. But here we see that they used to recycle it. And if you took it out on Shabbos, since you can paint with it, therefore you have. To wash the smallest clothing. The smallest clothing was the clothing on top of a hat. The halacha is, an item of clothing that's got a kesem of dam nidus is not possible for it to become tohoi unless you first take off the kesem. So these, which were all items to wash the clothes, if there was enough of it, of this ashlag, whatever it may be, to wash the stain of the beged, then you are chad. Says what? Our Mishnah says the wood, if it's enough to wash enough to bake an egg, we already learnt it regarding a reed. If you remember a quill, we said that if it's a broken quill and you can't write with it, if it's enough to cook an egg, it's enough. If it was thick or cracked, Trufa, when it's stirred from the son of Belfast and while it's put inside the pot. Answers, well, there's a difference. What's the difference? A quill which is broken can't be used for anything. But wood, you can use it for the teeth of a lock. If you've got a key and you want to make every key has to have teeth at the very end of it to open the door. And they used to use wooden splinters. So you might have thought that wooden splinters. You don't need enough to be able to cook an egg. You just need enough to make a lock. Therefore, even anything, Kamash Malon not. And Meiri says, why not? Because at the end of the day, people generally did not make keys out of wood. They made keys out of bones. So therefore, wood is not chayiv unless it's enough to bake an egg. Tavlin, spice, if it's 2 or 3 kinds of names, let's say white pepper, black pepper, and these kinds of things, but it's all one name, but it's different kinds of spices. Minimum of 3 complete separate kinds. If, for example, you drop an olo spices into a pot, then the halacha is that as long as the pot you can taste it, it's awesome. And what happens if, let's say, you add a bit of white pepper, black pepper, etc., and all olo, then the pot becomes awesome if you can taste any of them, if they combine together to give a taste. And the more carries on. That only chayav if you put all those spices, if together they can make the pot taste nice. Only if they can make the pot taste nice. If not for that, loy. And in our Mishnah, the Mishnah doesn't say that. The Mishnah just says that if they combine together, it is also, it doesn't say this added point, that it is necessary that the spices together taste nice. And indeed, the Mishnah is talking about a specific case where indeed it is possible to make the egg taste nice. And that's what we mentioned in the Mishnah. Regarding food, it does not need to combine. You take a piece of apple and a half a biscuit, and together it comes to a dried fig. And nobody eats, let's say, an apple. Let's say nobody would eat an apple with a dried biscuit. Nevertheless, that's enough because the chiyuv is as food, and this is a food. So together you've got enough food, you've got a dried fig worth of food. But when you're taking spices, either it has to be that each individual spice is enough to make your egg taste good, or that together they combine to make the egg taste good. But if you take a minute amount of pepper and a minute amount of garlic, and together they will not make anything taste nice, then you're not chayav. These are all plants which they used to use to make dyes. And how much do you have to have in order to color a smallest piece of clothing? What was the smallest piece of clothing? On top of a woman's hat, they used to have like a kind of pom-pom. And that hat, that kind of adornment on the hat was the smallest piece of clothing. So if you took enough pomegranate peels to dye and to make a color for that piece on the hat, one is chayav. Dyed colors. This is already, we're talking about the actual paint. That means this is the actual dye. Enough to make a dugma. A dugma is a sample. People who used to do a tailor would have a tiny piece of clothing for a sample. Or le'ira, which is the same size as an ira, which we had before. An ira was a small little box which they used to put the thread inside. A shuttle was called. And they used to throw it back and forth between the loom in order to make the thread go in and out. And they used to stuff the shuttle with a piece of cloth in order that the thread shouldn't come out too quickly. They used to stuff the shuttle with a tiny piece of cloth. Either way, in our Mishnah it says, how much do you have to have? Enough to dye the hat of a woman, the clothing on top of the hat of a woman. And here it says much less, only for a sample. And it says, meaning like this. Our Mishnah is not talking about the color, not about the paint. We're talking about the pomegranate peels from which you're going to extract the paint. Now, when you take paint, a person will keep a minute amount of paint because he can use it to sample, to color his sample, to color the bobbins, the shuttles, stuffing, etc. But when he's only got a minute amount of pomegranate, from which he's going to have to extract paint, and from the paint, all he can extract is a tiny amount, that is not going to bother. So from a pomegranate peel, there has to be enough that he can now paint a proper piece of clothing which goes on the woman's hat. And this is a very important yesod. We've had it before, I'm going to have it again. When you've got the final item, the paint itself, a person's going to be machshiv, is going to show importance for a minute amount, because he's got the paint, he'll keep it. But when you've got the ingredients to produce paint, like pomegranate peels, he's not going to keep it if all he can make out of it is a tiny amount of paint. If he can make a proper amount of paint to color a piece of clothing which is on top of a woman's hat, that's worth something of value. But just to make a tiny bit of paint, that not. This is a very simple idea, but it's something which comes up again and again. When you've got the final product as a small amount, but you've got something to produce the final amount, then it has to be slightly bigger. Meraglaim, Yomi, Tana, we've learned Meraglaim Adaboim Yom until 40 days. And Tes got a lot of different explanations what exactly it means 40 days. And Tes is a maskana, I'm fine. Tes the maskana says it means like this, that in order to wash with Yomi, you have to use one which has been 3 days to 40 days old. After 40 days old, or before 3 days old, it is not good as a detergent. And when the Gemara says till 40 days, it means that after 40 days, it's no longer good as a detergent. And once it's no longer good as a cleaning agent, then you're not chayav for carrying it. Nessa, Nessa Alexandrius and Nessa and Panturin. There were two countries which used to produce this kind of soap. And the Nessa Alexandris was much better quality. And the other one was a bad quality. And when the Mishnah says, for minute amount chayav, it's referring to the better quality soap. Boris, it's a kind of sand which they used to use to wash their clothes. The Baisa puts them as two separate categories, Boris and Chol. And in my Boris, Kafrisa, it's a kind of sulfur. Sulfur is something which doesn't grow. Sulfur is a kind of mineral, it's a rock. And we talk about Shemitah. In Shemitah year, anything which grows has halachas Shemitah. Certain things are like a kind of weed. And the question is, do they have the halachas of Shemitah applying to them? And the Mishnah says, that these items, which are kind of mineral, a kind of plants, which grow, some of them grow by themselves, somewhat inedible, but nevertheless they have usefulness either to feed donkeys or to feed or to make soap out of them or to make paints out of them. All these things have got the halachas of Shemitah too. Now the more main point is like this. You just said that buris is what? Sulfur. And if you're going to say buris is sulfur, why should there be halachas Shemitah on sulfur? There's no Shemitah on something that doesn't grow. If you hold that buris is sulfur, Is there such a thing as sulfur and shmita? Anything which got roots and it grows in the ground, if it doesn't grow in the ground, so therefore, obviously, buris cannot be sulfur and it can't be sand. So what in the world is buris? And the my buris ahalo, a kind of aloe. It's a kind of herb which people used to use for cleaning. It says it's two separate categories. Buris is one thing, aloe is something else. And the Trey Gam aloe, there were two kinds of aloe. One was called buris, one was called aloe. I am not translated it to the exact. The article itself, many of these words doesn't translate. We do not know what these soaps are. In fact, the Gemara in Nid already tells us we do not know what these soaps are, because the Gemara there says that if you actually to know these soaps, you could then determine which things are blood and which things are not by checking with these soaps. We don't know what they are. There are various herbs which they used to have, which they used to clean with. Kimulia, Omav Yehuda Shleif Deutz. This is the Kimulia is called Shleif Deutz. Again, we do not know the translation to either. It's a kind of herb. I asked all the sailors, it's called shenuna. It's found in the hole of a pearl. And they would take it out with an iron knife and an iron needle. They would pull it out from the pearl, a kind of herb, which would then be used, a kind of substance, which would then be used for cleaning clothes. If you ever open a pearl inside its oyster, inside its shell, you will find a substance around which is very good for cleaning detergents. The Mishnah carries on now with a list of more things which were used and what they were used for and how much you have. Palpeles, pepper. Rashi already tells us it's not our kind of pepper. It's a different kind of pepper. Kolshu, the most minute amount, one is chayav for carrying, as the Gemara will explain. Ve'itzon tar, kolshu. Mine besamim, all kinds of spices. Some all kinds of perfumes. Mine matchis, all kinds of metal. Kolshe. Now, if the mizbeach crumbled or a stone or pebble fell off, then you'd have to take, then there was a mitzvah called geniza. There's a special mitzvah called geniza to put away. And therefore, if you took the most minute amount of the mizbeach which crumbled, since you have a mitzvah to put it in geniza, so if you take even one pebble, you're making a mitzvah of geniza. So even if you take one pebble, it's important that you have. Now, in the olden days, the sfarim would crumble from worms. Each kind of crumbling, each kind of decay had a different kind of worm. So mekak svarim, the worm of the svarim, meaning svarim that crumbled from worms. Or mekak mitbechesem, or the worms that ate away the cloths around the Sefer Torah. Kolshu, why? So if you take a tiny piece of shemus and you're walking in the street with it, you're chayav. Why? Since there's a mitzvah of geniza, so therefore you're taking something of importance, because you're taking something which you can use to be goodness. Even if you take something from Avodah Zarah, we're going to tell this again also later, meaning like this. When the person takes out a piece of Avodah Zarah from his home, even if he takes out a minute amount, he's gained something. What has he gained? He's gained that he's got less Avodah Zarah in his house. So therefore, by taking it out of his house, he's actually done something of value. Therefore, even if he takes the most minute amount, he's chayav, because there's some importance to it. The importance is they got rid of it. And therefore, the most minute amount of Avodah Zarah, the person's chayav. Yes. It is a mitzvah to get rid of Avodah Zarah. Yeah, it doesn't push off Shabbos. Yeah. So the Gemara says, that Gemara goes through a list of different things, what they were used for. Palpeles, kolshu, lemay chazer leveach hapeh. This kind of pepper, if you put it in your mouth, it got rid of bad breath. Since it got rid of bad breath, even the most minute amount had that capability. So therefore, even the most minute amount was chayav. It's on tar kolshu. My chazer letzlich also. For migraines, if a person ever has a migraine, he should take some tar and rub it into his forehead, and the migraine will go away. Therefore, since tar has that ability, therefore it is chayav for the most minute amount. Minne b'samim kolshen. Tonu rabbanon. Hamoitzi ve'achra kolshehu. Take something which got a bad smell, the most minute amount. Why? Why bad smells? Rashi says, maybe explains more at length, that in the olden days, people used to take things which have a bad smell, and they would carry it around with them, believing, I should say, they knew that taking around a bad smell gets rid of ayin hara. So therefore, they would take around with them something which give off a bad smell. That would get rid of ayin hara. Therefore, carrying it was also Shemen tov, good smell, kolshu, for the same, this is for the opposite reason, because people want to be attractive, so take a bit of perfume. Argomon, which was red thread, kolshu, that is also minute amount. Rashi says he doesn't know why. And some told him maybe because it has a good smell and therefore make people attractive. A young rose, achas. One young rose is enough of importance to take it, because again, it would make a nice smell and people would be attracted to it, and therefore it was bad to take it. Mine matcha is kol shein, metal, the most minute amount, you can make out of it a small pin to control the cow. They used to have this long stick, and at the end of the stick, they used to put a pin in it, and with it, they used to knock the neck of the cow to turn it right or left. So therefore, it was called a goad in English. That's the correct word. I don't know if you know the word goad, but that's a small piece of metal could be used as a pin to control the cow. So metal, even a small amount, is chayv. Somebody promises to bring iron to the Beis HaMikdash. How much iron does he have to bring? He's bringing an ammo by an ammo. Says, what can you do with an ammo by an ammo of iron? Says the Gemara, to get rid of the ravens. Around the Beis HaMikdash, on the very top of the Beis HaMikdash, around the roof, they had these big iron sheets of metal in order to put away ravens. When ravens see reflection, they won't come. And that would make sure that they won't fly and land on the walls of the Beis HaMikdash. So therefore, if a person promises to bring iron, that's how much he should bring. Now the Gemara brings exactly the same halacha, just the other way around. The version is read the other way around. He shouldn't bring less than that which pushes away the ravens. The camel, how much is that? And amor. Now what happens if a person promises nechoshes? If a person promises to bring what? How thick? It sounds like it doesn't matter. Ever thickness. So that's right. Just enough that it can be a sheet. If you look in the pictures of the Beis HaMikdash, you'll find that there's actually jagged edges around, and that comes from this Gemara. First, I thought that this was just an artistic thing. I once brought out a sefer Eicha. An artist made me a cover of the Beis HaMikdash with. I said to him, "Where do you get this adornment from?" Until eventually I found this before Shiur. That's what they looked like. In order to keep the ravens away, you see these pictures. Where? Oh, that's how they put sharp things to keep away birds, yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but same idea. You see, they say CDs inside the car works. The choshes, the person promises being copper. Yeah, a reflection. Yeah, the choshes copper. The yifches more kesef, not less than the coin of silver. Tanya blazer immer yifches with sinur ketanosh on the choshes, not less than a small fork of the choshes. A small, a fork is the right word. It means a small pliers. What would you do with it? You'd be able to pull and cut the wicks. They used to light them anew every day. And they used to use, in order to clean the wicks, they would pull out the wicks and cut the wicks to size. So they used to use a tiny little copper pair of not pliers, wrong word, scissors. Tweezers, that's the good word, tweezers. So copper, if you promise to bring copper to Beis HaMikdash, it has to be enough to be able to create a tiny pair of tweezers. The Gemara now just lists us out the names of the different worms which would affect different kinds of materials and degrade them, make them decayed. For books, the worm was called mekak. Techach, teshivoi. The worms that attacked silk was called techach. The ilo, the invi. The worms that attack grapes are called ilo. Upeh, the te'eni. Figs are eaten by a worm which is called peh. The hay, the rimoni. The pomegranates are eaten up by a worm called hay. Kulu sakanta. And eating any of these worms is very, very dangerous. I was eating figs. I can taste thorns in the figs. So what did he realize? Why was he tasting thorns? Because there were worms eating the figs, and by eating the worms, he thought he was eating needles. Pear, which was the worm, which we said before. Every kind of item has a different name of a worm which eats it up. Figs, the worm which attacks figs is called pear. The worm pear is going to kill this one. He realized that his Talmud was going to die. because once he tasted the needles, he obviously could taste the worms. And the Gemara just said it's sakanta. The Rishonim say because of this, the Shulchan Aruch asks that you shouldn't eat any of these things in the dark, because you have to be able to make sure that chas v'shalom there's no worms. These worms are very dangerous. If a person takes out a big box, and inside the box there's lots of different kinds of samples of things to sell, so how many chatois should he be chayav? Because he carried a very lot of things. Even though it has many different spices, different kinds of minim, different kinds of materials inside it, only chayav one. So if you take, let's say, a whole tray to sell different things, let's say you're a peddler, and you've got needles, buttons, and cloth, and everything else, and you take it outside, the person's only chayav one, because it's one item. Seeds. Less than a fig, because seeds are more valuable than food, because you can plant them and create out of them much more. You have to have 5 seeds. Top of tzaddik on the base. The kishuin, or some say cucumbers. The seed of cucumbers, shnaim. Diluin, pumpkins, shnaim. Pula mitzvah, kind of bean, shnaim. 2 beans, 2 cucumber seeds, that's enough to be chayav for. Chogov chai, a live locust. So if it's toy, if it's something which is allowed to be eaten, kolshu, even if it's tiny, the Gemara will explain why. Mace, if it's dead, kugugeres has to be the size of a fig. I explained before, because it was better before the Gemara. When a locust is dead, the only thing you can use it for is food, right? For supper tonight, you can feed your children locusts. So when it's dead, it's only good as food. Food, what's the general rule for food? It has to be the size of a dried fig. When it's alive, you can give it to them as a toy, right? A live locust is a very good toy. So therefore, even if it's less than a dried fig, even if it's a small one, it's valuable as a toy. Tzipayus kromim, a kind of bird which lives in the vineyard, this kind of bird, the Gemara explained, had medical purposes. So therefore, however big, however small it was, you're chayav. Here was even a shreifa locust, that means a locust which is forbidden to be eaten, kolshu. He puts it away for a child to play with it. He holds that even shreifa locusts were given to children to play. And I'm going to again say what the Gemara says later. And that is like this. The Tanna Kama holds you don't give shreifa locusts for them to play with. Can anybody guess why? Might eat it. Very good. The Yehuda holds that sometimes you do. So the Tanna Kama says you only give them kosher locusts to play with. You don't give them a shreifa locust to play with. But the Yehuda holds even that. Says the Gemara. The Mishnah says that how much seeds do you have to carry? And now 5, 2, or less than a gegeres. Over here we have a different halacha. Mini zebel v'cheladaik, fertilizer or thin sandwich used for fertilizing. Kedelizabel kalach shel kruv, enough for 1 cabbage. And over here you say you need to have a few seeds. 1 leek. Why in our Mishnah do we say a number of seeds? And over here we say 1 cabbage and 1 leek. And the answer should be obvious. Because seeds is not the end product. It's something to produce other things. Masha'inkin over here, a leek which is already fully grown is much more valuable, like we talked before when we talked about the dyes. There's a difference between the pomegranate peel, which is going to make a dye, and the actual dye itself. And it says, when it's grown or when it's not grown. A person is not going to take 1 seed, that's not valuable. But when it's fully grown and it's a full cabbage, then it is valuable. So in our mission, we talk about seeds. So 1 cabbage, 1 seed is not important. There we talk about a fully grown thing. Cucumber seeds. If you take out seeds, if it's for planting stein, less than 2 is not important. Because sometimes they don't grow so well. So people only take 2 seeds at a time. If it's for eating, enough to feed a pig. And Tesis points out, when obviously a yid is not allowed to have a chazer, you're not allowed to grow a chazer. You must never buy a chazer as a pet. Only, we're talking about that person will then bring it to a goy, to give it to a goy to feed. How much does the pig eat in 1 mouthful? 1. If it's for burning purposes, to cook a light egg, a chicken egg. Sometimes people used to take seeds in order to keep track of things, right? If you want to count, so you run out of your fingers and your toes, so you need to take seeds to count with. So they would take seeds to count. So how many seeds do you need to take to be considered important enough to count? 2. Some say 5. And the Rishonim explain The first Tanakama holds that 2 seeds can help you count because you take 1, 2, you remember. Let's say you want to remember how many daf you've learned today. So you take 2 seeds to remember. And some say 2 is such a simple number to remember, you won't bother schlepping seeds around just to remember 2. The 5, that's much harder. So 5 seeds is important, 2 seeds is not. Take 2 hairs from the tail of a horse, from the tail of a cow. Why? When they would make nets, they used to use hairs from the tail of a horse or the tail of a cow. This was the hair from the spine of the pig. The hair of the spine of the pig is very, very, very hard. So therefore, achas, even 1 is valuable because you can use it for a variety of things. Tzurei deker, stein, leaves, branches of a date tree is 2. Tzurei deker, that is the bark around the tree. Achas, that's only 1. I mean, it's not bark. It's like a kind of plant which grows around the date tree. That's only 1. So again, each thing has a value depending on how much you have, whether it's valuable or not. Suppose this bird we're going to explain is valuable, however big and however small, whether it's alive or dead. Says the Gemara, might suppose Omar Pali Biari. Pali Biari said as follows. That was his name, Rashi says. Omar Abaya. Mishtakach betiklo. It was found in a tree. Techad nevoro. That's only got around it 1 layer of bark. It's a young tree. You can use it to become wise. You eat half of the bird, the right-hand side of the bird you eat. The half of the bird on the left. You put it in a copper pipe. You seal it with 60 different kinds of seals. You hang it on your left arm, and then a person will become very wise. That the fool's heart is on his left, meaning that a fool who needs to become wise has to hang things on his left. He has to hang this bird on his left. A person becomes as wise as he wishes. He learns as much as he wishes. If only I could get hold of this bird. But you have to eat the second half of the bird, which is hanging on your left-hand side. Otherwise, the Torah will be forgotten. Even a treifa locust, Tanakama says only a kosher locust you give to your child as a pet. But a treifa locust you won't give to your child as a pet because he might come to eat it. Afraid the Gemara, if the Tanakama is choshesh, you might come to eat it. Even a kosher locust, min hadin, you're allowed to eat a kosher locust while it's still alive. You're allowed to eat a locust while it's still alive. There's no din shchita on locusts. But there's an issa called Baal Tashaktu. Baal Tashaktu is an issa to do anything which is cause a person meals, causes disgust. And therefore you're not allowed to eat a locust while it's alive. So therefore, how can you give a child a live locust? He may come to eat it, and coming to eat it is a issa Baal Tashaktu. Rav Kahana was in front of Rav. He put a locust in front of his mouth. Take it away. Don't put a live locust in front of your mouth. People might come to think you're eating it and you're about to shaksu. Let me take this. We're not chayshish to leave a live one. And the children never eat live creatures, not kosher ones, not treifa ones. So therefore like this. They only eat it when they die. So the Tanakama says only give him a kosher locust. A treifa locust, one which is not allowed to be eaten, because some locusts are kosher, some are forbidden to be eaten. The Sfardim have a proper mesuras, which ones are allowed, which ones are forbidden. So therefore, if you give him a kosher one, it doesn't matter. He won't eat it till he dies, and when it's dead, you're allowed to eat it. But if you give him a treifa one, he might die, and then eat it. So if you can't give him a treifa one, when a child's got a pet, and the pet dies, he gets devastated, and he makes a spade him. He's not going to eat it, and therefore we're not chayshish they'll come to eat it. So everybody agrees that child will never eat a live pet. The only chashash he might eat a dead one. Tanakama says he might come to eat a dead, so therefore only give him a kosher locust, not a treifa locust. Yehuda says no, even a treifa locust he won't eat, because once it dies, he won't come to eat it. He'll rather mourn its a loss, and he won't come to eat it. Which we zeicha to learn this perk again in Shemaim. Basis Shemala with all this lomdus, and to remember and do it again, Mr. Shem, in this world as well. Mazel tov, very, very nice. L'chaim, l'chaim. Simchas. Mazel tov, Chaim. Mazel tovin. How are you? Nice to see you. There's a light reflecting. I wish I could pass you whiskey over the Zoom. You have to have a l'chaim.
Fine, that's fine, thank
Oh.
you.
Can you hear all right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, very good. Yehuda, Mazel tov, Yehuda. I can't see you, but Mazel tov anyway.
Mazel tov, Serach.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
Okay, Kol tov, Asi, Hatzlacha.
Try that again.
Right. Yeah. Oh, shkech. Oh, I didn't set up the mic, so Dils did. Oh, shkech. Mazel tov. Mazel tov.
It's underneath me. Underneath me is tightening.
Is it okay? Let's see. Thank you, Yehuda.
Oh,
I want some cake with the whiskey. Having some cake.